This morning I was thinking about this idea of the world not being linear, but that all of our experience of life is circular, from one day to the next, 1 year to the next, a cycle, everything through the seasons, through the orbits of all the planets. Everything is circular and cyclical. And I started thinking about applying that to the scriptures. I did it a number of years ago with the idea of the Garden of Eden being a description of our condition, that it wasn't actually a one-time fall of man story as it's often interpreted, but that it was actually a story of our constant condition of going out through the senses and seeing the forbidden fruit, thinking that things we find outside the senses are going to fulfill us, and that takes us out of our Eden, out of our inner peace. And so I was thinking about it this morning in terms of the now, and trying to find that presence, this being here now, emptying the mind of thought so that things can be seen uninterpreted, unshadowed by the lenses of our past experiences and our future desires. And for some reason, the Katha Upanishad came into mind. And in that story, Nachiketas actually goes to the king of death and is in his waiting room. And when the king of death comes, Yama, he wants to, give a boon to Nachiketas for having waited so patiently for him to show up. And, Nachiketas says, I want to know what the truth of life is. I want to know what happens after death. What is the fate of me after the body drops? And death does not want to tell him that secret. Death comes up with every possible excuse not to do that. And in thinking about that story, in the idea of this cyclical nature of things, I thought, well, perhaps that's a state that we're always in. That obviously there is no king of death if there is no death, right? If I am immortal in my nature, what is there to die? So why is there a king of death? And what is this that Nachiketas is trying to tell us? And this is where some Christian verses came into mind, where Jesus talks about having to die before you die. And in terms of what Eckhart Tolle was talking about, that is relinquishing the mind, relinquishing your history, relinquishing your story, killing this false notion of who you are. That is death. And any time that we sit in meditation with the idea of putting the ego to death, we're sitting in the waiting room of Yama, of the king of death, and we are in search of the truth. We want to see the divine through that stilled mind. We want to see the true nature of things. And Yama offers you everything at that point while you're sitting there trying to calm the mind. He'll bring dancing girls, he'll bring thoughts of wealth, he'll bring all of your desires in. Anything to keep your mind alive. Why? Because in mind is the birthplace and holding place of ego, that which blocks us from our divine knowledge, our divine understanding. So you're living out the Katha Upanishad every time you sit down to meditate and try and still your mind. And like Nachiketas, you have to be firm in your desire, firm in your conviction. You have to battle the mind and put aside all those temptations of all the things that Yama is offering you instead of giving you realization, instead of giving you the truth. What are you settling for? So when you sit today for your meditation, for your prayer, be determined to get your boon from the King of Death. Let that ego die and find your nature.